you to this month's Research Ready Mentor Spotlight on patient engagement and recruitment. The Mentor Spotlight series is a monthly webinar where an expert shares best practices and highlights exceptional processes relevant to the clinical research community in Ontario and Canada. We aim to be interactive in the live sessions, but we do also post a recording of the webinar online at the link you see here. For more information on Research Ready, you can visit CTO's website. We also provide a certificate of attendance for those who joined the live session today. We just ask that you complete a short feedback survey that will appear at the end of the session, and this will allow us to create a certificate if you would like a record for CE purposes. We welcome any feedback you have or suggestions on topics you would like to see presented. You can share feedback through the survey or by contacting CTO directly. In terms of housekeeping, we will have a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So at that time, feel free to unmute yourself to ask a question, or you can also use the chat feature, and I will moderate the chat at the end of the session. So today we would like to welcome our speaker, Yvan Lamoureux. Yvan is a recognized expert in data-driven marketing, brand management, and digital transformation, with roles spanning the pharmaceutical, medical devices, clinical research trials, cannabis, SaaS companies, and industrial supply industries. He has held senior positions across many disciplines and business units, most notably strategic patient recruitment initiatives. Coupled with his infectious energy and creative spirit, Yvan brings a wealth of knowledge and marketing prowess to patient care through patient engagement, applying a deep understanding of human-centered recruitment marketing that delivers positive patient outcomes for maximum enrollment growth. As CEO and founder of ResearchMetrix by Crankworks Creative, a full-service clinical trial marketing agency, Yvan's vision and leadership provides a partnership to internal research teams for human engagement and patient recruitment. Yvan is a graduate of the University of Manitoba with multiple design and marketing degrees. And with that, I will pass it over to Yvan.
Okay, thank you, Renika. I'll try to share my screen at this point. And I will move this. So can we all see that?
Yep, we can see your slides.
Okay, great. So Renika, thank you for that introduction. I'd like to thank the CTO for the opportunity to present on the subject of clinical trials, patient engagement, digital recruitment, and retention. So my goal, well, what I endeavor to do is help organizations today evoke meaning and empathy through their recruitment efforts. In turn, in terms of the clinical trial industry, patient engagement, digital recruitment, and retention, it's no longer simply about delivering on clever conceptual execution and establishing social media presence. It's about delivering on ethical, honest communications and measuring their results through to patient registration. Oh, I'm having trouble going through to the next slide. There we go. ResearchMetrix is a full-service clinical trial and recruitment agency, tantamount to a creative company specializing in branding and content creation. However, our primary focus is recruitment and acquisition of patients for clinical trials. Over the last 20 years, we have experienced the evolution of market research and patient engagement. We are now implementing the latest and cutting-edge technology for patient recruitment. By leveraging modern technology, we have developed a simpler, quicker, and more insightful way of testing the effectiveness of our patient recruitment strategies, while leveraging the benefit of traditional marketing research. To achieve patient engagement, we pride ourselves on a human-centric approach, and we're going to touch on that, to recruitment. One derived from years of experience doing work within the research trial industry. So let's get right into it. Today, we're going to take a really wide-angled view of patient engagement and recruitment and retention within the clinical trial industry. So let's start with the first question. What is the state of research trials today? Broadly within North America, as of April 24th, that's just yesterday, clinicaltrials.gov reported 448 plus thousand trials. When we compare that to 2011, where Statista.com reported 118 plus thousand trials, we could see that within 12 years, the industry has grown 4 times its size. Add to that, Canada is a global leader in clinical research. All you have to do is go to a Government of Canada website and look up clinical trials environment in Canada. In Canada, you'll see that Canada currently captures 4% of research trials globally. But the question remains, do more trials mean equal or greater amounts of potential patients? Let's find out. We recognize that we have a very healthy and growing industry. But what does that mean for clinics and their recruitment efforts? What does that mean for you, the people, where the rubber hits the road, who are doing the work? Here are some real world statistics that you may find compelling. 85% of sites do not meet their enrollment goals. It's not surprising that clinics feel increasing pressure to sponsor for sponsors or towards their sponsors to recruit, especially given the growth of the industry over the last 12 years, and often overcommit in terms of their recruitment goals. 40% of potential patients do not understand the idea of a clinical trial. So obviously more needs to be done in the public sphere. 32% indicated that they would be very willing to participate after they understood what a clinical trial was or is. Education is a must and should be supported by all levels of the industry, the sponsor, the clinic, and not just at the point of promotion when the trial is occurring. Up to 50% of sites of sites enrolled one or no patients in their studies. Statistically significant enrollment is a challenge for most trials and teams. 1/3 of referral patients are never processed. 1% of respondents actually enroll. Teams and research coordinators are taxed for their resources. Despite their best efforts, recruitment skepticism is real. 9 out of 10 trials require the original timeline to be doubled in order to meet enrollment goals. The patients exist, otherwise there'd be no point in the research, or the trial wouldn't be occurring. If anything, timelines seem to be more arbitrary than realistic. Both the previous and following statistics are not random occurrences. They are well documented, and you can find both recent and past examples of recruitment outcomes quite readily on the web, if you know where to look, dating as far back as 10 years or more. They are not arbitrary statistical outliers or random musings. The truth is, no matter the trial, the patient journey has its challenges, and these statistics likely apply to your trial. Typically, the more focused the trial, the more elusive the subject, the more time is required, the more expensive the approach or recruitment effort. Consider the following statistics regarding the recruitment journey. I'm really having trouble saying statistics today. I might have to say stats. Often described as the patient funnel, we can look at patient identification. Only 25% of patients reported being informed by their physician, GP, or specialist of the clinical trial or clinical trials as a treatment option. Going down the funnel to recruitment and enrollment, 50% of all clinical trials fail to achieve their clinical trial enrollment targets, while 20% fail to enroll a single patient. Retention. 65% of patients who dropped out of a clinical trial noted discomfort with the content discussion. Now, this really begs the question, are trials empathetic enough? Are we getting them the right information? Are we talking to them in a humanistic, but using a humanistic approach? Are all trial patient touchpoints supported by our efforts? The stigma associated with clinical trial is real. Clearly, more must be done. Which brings me to my next point. Recruitment at its core is a complex equation to resolve, especially when you consider it from the point of view of a patient or potential patient. The clinical trial participation equation formula that you see here can help us understand the factors that influence the subject's willingness and ability to participate in the trial, stay in the trial, and re-register into a trial. The highlighted areas happen to be areas that ResearchMetrix supports in terms of services. When we look at the left of the equation, we see a number of factors that influence positive patient outcomes. When we look at the right, we see additional amplifiers by which we are dividing the initial factors. Factors such as awareness, the patient's awareness of the study opportunity, appreciation, the patient's feeling of appreciation by the site or research sponsor, education, the extent to which a patient understands their condition and the trial in question, expectation, the patient's expectation regarding the benefiting from the trial, the environment, the comfort and quality of the clinical research site, credibility, the site staff conducting the trial and their interactions with the patient, relationship, the level of familiarity and trust the site has with the patient, responsiveness, the amount of times or timelines required in terms of inquiries and patient questions. Divide all that, so the whole left of the slide, with the following: the amount of risk and peril that they perceive, the amount of inconvenience to the patient themselves associated with participating in the study, as well as the strength of impact of key influencers. In other words, people outside of the GP, not their GP, like parents, friends, family, mentors, and support groups. So from a clinical research site perspective, traditionally, what does a clinical trial recruitment process look like? What are the various phases? Where do we start? Typically, as a lot of you guys know, the clinical research trial coordinator starts by looking a trial up on clinicaltrials.gov. I understand that this isn't the only place you can find out if a trial is going to make itself available, but it's my understanding that this is the place that most people look at. To discuss a simple model, the sponsor reviews the clinic and the clinic is determined protocol compliant or not. If so, we move on. Subsequently, the clinic is awarded the trial. And roughly at that stage is when recruitment is traditionally starting or people are thinking of it. Now, I understand that the sponsor has a notion of what they want to see in terms of recruitment, and that's, applied to the protocol. But again, this is just a loose model. So at this stage, we create patient awareness. We provide patients with the proper information. We provide patients with the opportunity to act, usually digitally, through pre-screening. And then we arrive to randomization, onboarding. The trial occurs. And here we'll see ongoing active trial support. When we consider retention, it's after that point. Ongoing after trial touch points may be devised, where after the trial occurs and it's complete, we're reaching out to the community at various times to see how they're doing, if there are any additional complications. Community building begins, returning patient internal processes are considered. Okay, so that's right. Where's the confusion? The confusion occurs in the industry when we start to equate GP referrals with recruitment efforts. So how do digital recruitment practices differ from GP referrals? When we think of a patient referral, we need to understand that GPs, physicians, and medical practitioners are practicing medicine. They typically have deep insights and a history with the patient and their condition. When patients are typically referred, research is often considered a last chance alternative. This is a referral. Trust is awarded or borrowed from the GP, physician, or medical practitioner. In opposition with online digital recruitment, patients self-screen. They arrive to research often because they are doing their own investigation. and are looking to learn more about their condition and indication. They are often looking for an alternative to traditional methods. They are often apprehensive and skeptical. This is recruitment. Trust needs to be earned through content and the patient journey experience. That includes when they arrive at the clinic itself and the bedside manner. A GP or medical practitioner is practicing medicine and effectively pre-qualifying the patient, and that's what's key. The medical practitioner takes on the bulk of the qualification burden. The advantage is that you'll collect qualified leads for your trial. Patients require little to no pre-screening by the clinic. Typically, patients register faster and require less work on part of the research coordinator. But what if the study requires more than the referral physician can provide, or a team can provide, of physicians that is, and you can't produce enough potential patients? Such is often the case with phase 2 and phase 3 trials where hundreds of candidates are required. Or what if the trial is dealing with a more obscure condition? GP and specialists may not have enough qualified patient referrals to help the study. Referrals may be a better source of potential patients. However, GPs and specialists, physicians, are not apt to make them. We don't see so many referrals there. Like, there's always a struggle to build bridges. We hear that a lot from our clients. The clinical research trial community is far more focused on the trials themselves and not their promotion. And rightfully so. There's a lot that goes into following a protocol and following up with patients and doing the study itself. A humanistic patient approach to research starts long before the patient arrives at the site for screening. It begins from the moment the patient becomes aware of their condition, typically through their GP. To meet a patient's halfway, you need to be there for them online while they search for answers or options and resources long before you host the trial itself. The keystone for the gateway of trust is research trial specialization and content marketing for retention. Hence, specialization becomes a catalyst for patient recruitment opportunities through online content dissemination and ongoing social media engagement. Within the digital recruitment process, no one is practicing medicine upfront. Hence, we need to use pre-screeners and questionnaires. And let's face it, people can lie on these. It typically takes longer because there are more steps in the process. The process itself takes on the bulk of the qualification burden. As such, research coordinators are required to be more involved. There is a higher risk of false positives due to self-evaluation. The screening process after registration and prior to randomization is critical and where a medical practitioner is required. The goal is the same, but the processes themselves are different. In the end, it's all about earning patient trust and maintaining that trust. Maintaining trust from the time they have been made aware of their unique conditions. Because trust me, that's how patients see themselves, having a unique condition. Recruitment efforts have evolved. What is effective years ago in terms of patient recruitment may not be working as well today, or may not be working for a particular clinical trial. Today, digital patient recruitment strategies are made possible due to the advent of search, social media, and the Internet of Things. Patients nowadays are increasingly more engaged in their own healthcare. They have access to tons of information online, within digital communities, and within patient advocacy groups. Thank you. Yet more and more, we are hearing about misinformation about research trials. And yet patients still feel that they can take control and ownership over their health situation. A lot of these patients who like to take control over their situation are not in the databases that we keep hearing are growing and growing. despite their popularity. Moreover, when we think about misinformation, I'm quoting here, several incidents of public health concerns arose out of social media and misinformation during COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's from the National Library of Medicine, the US National Library of Medicine. Again, sponsors, CROs, clinics need to develop their voice online and beyond medical publications. The online environment has provided us the ability to target specific patient segments using customized messages. Targeting to this extent simply cannot be done by traditional means. And traditional means is traditional print, radio, and TV. They now integrate with online triggers, but the traditional means didn't have, unless you were doing a coupon, like on the back of a cereal box, traceability, there was none. Today, tailored messages resonate within more target patient segments. These advertising platforms, initially designed for online retailers and their year-over-year calendars, if used ethically, responsibly, and creatively, become effective trust-building channels for which we can measure results. However, the selection of targeting criteria within these platforms are often changing month by month, and the platforms themselves are subject to trending and generational favoritism. In other words, the platforms themselves evolve, they fall in and out of favor with different generational groups. So how do you stay on top of this stuff? And yes, again, traditional TV, radio, and print methods can still play a role when proper scope is considered. However, they cost more and they are more challenging to track. The creation of digital patient communities divided by therapeutic area and indication has become increasingly popular. In support of such communities, relatable ongoing content development, which engages with patients, have produced the opportunity to collect information about patient behavior, preferences, and even their psychographic details. But before you can create a database, one needs to make an investment in community building. Clinics and principal investigators need to become research trial advocates outside of the traditional medical forum. They need to take up the research cause with the general public and advocate awareness, prevention, and support. They need to demonstrate a formal understanding of an empathetic approach to patient care long before potential patients step foot into the trial. Now, I'm not stating that physicians or the PIs aren't empathetic, but what we're talking about is creating an empathetic persona online prior to people arriving, just to be clear. Involvement in patient advocacy collaborations is a long-term recruitment and retention enhancer. Trust can be built in association with these groups. Patients who have been through clinical trials and are part of these communities often become active ambassadors and often advocate for the clinical trial itself. This is the type of support typically requires a specific area of research trial focus to be sustainable. Oftentimes we hear from our clients that they want to be in all trials. But the reality is that in order to get qualified by a sponsor, you have to have certain expertise and equipment on site. So it makes sense to specialize or at least declare an area of interest online, one that you can harness and grow out of and collect other areas of research as you grow. I mean, it's difficult when you're starting a startup research trial or clinic. You're usually looking for whatever you can find and get qualified for. But as you mature, it's a more mature business model to specialize. If you want to grow a circle of trust and influence prior to and during recruitment efforts, it's important to engage with these groups both genuinely and transparently. Today, with so many channels and opportunities to communicate, and with so many competing messages, our recruitment message is often fragmented or simply gets lost in the digital void. And it's often difficult to know where to start. Integration requires coordination of all channels, media, and message to avoid fragmentation. There is no silver bullet channel. There is no way of doing or promoting that will play well for all research trials and for all types of patients. Oftentimes we hear from our clients and they're chasing the latest and the greatest. Like one of the newer mediums is Our Neighbor, a platform that is neighborhood based and shows a lot of potential. But just because there's a population density enough to help qualify a patient within that platform or by reaching out in that manner doesn't mean it's going to work a second time or a third. But it's about a combination of mediums. Fragmentation occurs when messaging doesn't fit together. It needs to form an integrated whole. Hence, consistency in the choice of media and environment, branded communication, and clinical site online voice is paramount for successful recruitment. So what can you do to ensure successful patient recruitment? The following are 7 steps or methods to better overall long-term recruitment. Modern approaches, such as the ones mentioned here, offer you many targeting opportunities. Modern approaches are often used in an integrated manner, meaning a selection of channels are used to stimulate and produce the desired results. Modern approaches help broaden your capacity to recruit and help to unify your message. And a better message and a better sense of your budget, and you have far more management of budget. In other words, previous traditional channels, you used to have to provide an allotment of money. Now you can go month to month, week to week, and you can adjust your spend within a lot of these social media channels or online digital channels. So what top modern methods are being used today? So with top social media channels, the opportunity lies in finding patients where they're having the conversation. Facebook is still a very strong channel. There are all kinds of groups within Facebook that you can target for your particular research trial and provide a message that resonates with them. There's also alternative native ads. You can offer engaging, educational, informative stories within familiar alternative settings, such as online newsletters and magazines. All too often, we hear from our clients, they want to use the most common channels, the ones they know. There is a world on the web outside of the most common channels where magazines, for instance, live for physicians as well as patients. And depending on how you're involved in the research trial, you may want the attention of a physician because they may have 3 or 4 recommendations. And if you find yourself in a magazine discussing cancer research or some sort of cancer finding, there's a good chance a physician will be reading that and to inform themselves and hey, there's a research trial in line with their research or in line with their interests where they can make referrals. There's also the opportunity for compelling display ads that can lift performance with highly interactive HTML creative. Motion graphics and video can help you engage with your potential patients using complex human-centric stories, ideal for building trust. Connected TV, you have the opportunity to reach today's TV patient viewers with data-driven targeting and analytics. So this is more like online streaming services, unlike the traditional television model or cable model that we know. online audio and podcasts. You could speak to quality patient audiences during screen-free moments. Recruitment plans often stop with targeted demographics and fail to collect the level of insight required to build trust or a better online bedside manner. Plans that take into account the patient's journey and that start with empathy, behavioral insights, and are more effective because they address what appeals to the patient or what concerns the patient from a patient's perspective. By extension, these insights position you and the promotion of what you're talking about more successfully. In order to get beyond demographic insight, you need to ask some questions, such as, what are your potential patients' unmet needs? What are their daily obstacles or specific condition downfalls? Who diagnoses and treats your potential patient? What treatment options do they have in their country or in their neighborhoods? Where do they look for information on indications or their condition? In 2023, research companies can no longer afford to put data privacy initiatives tied to established social media providers on the shelf for later consideration. In other words, there's been a lot of stuff going on in social, legally, that is affecting how we can use the algorithm. The reality is that more protective privacy policies are only going to continue to increase around the globe. And research trial online recruitment initiatives won't be able to choose to opt out. For instance, Facebook, now known as Meta, removed detailed targeting. Detailed targeting allowed presenting the targeted advertisement to patients based on their health condition. We could literally put eczema into our targeting, and it would look for conversations and groups tied to eczema. We can't do that anymore. They removed it as a step towards patient privacy protection of personal medical information available on Facebook. They removed the ability to target a medical cause or target a discussion on a particular disease. Why, may you ask? Well, the backstory has to do with a company called a PR company called Cambridge Analytica. There was an employee there that was going around wanting to sell the psychological profile of the American voter to any political party who would have it. All of a sudden it became public, and Facebook, who was already in court, started being grilled for their algorithmic specificity. Google, much like Facebook, this year will be getting rid of third-party cookies. This erodes at past targeting methods. And this has to do with North American, both Canada and US governmental legislation. Effectively, we can't design the cookie the way we want to track any type of information we want. Cookies will still exist, just not in that form. Google is not the only search engine out there, but they are the biggest. They make up 83% of the market last I checked. So they're the influencer. So, you know, when they zig, everyone else zags. You need to know how to target potential patients within greater constraints, both ethically, for ethical reasons and legal reasons. Professional recruitment may be an adjacent field to research, but the growing need for specialization is spurring the need for increased partnership. Possible Facebook counters to what they're doing. It can be helpful to include at least one or two mentions of specific eligibility criteria in the Meta or Facebook ads. So the eligibility criteria that you get in the protocol can be used as a trigger online. That's one thing. Including the eligibility criteria in your ad can also help reduce clicks from patients who don't qualify for your trial, particularly if the criteria is very specific. A Google counter to what they're doing, you may want to consider using paid for or subscription-based online environments or tools for which potential patients have approved their solicitation. In order to approach patients prior to research trials, you need to consider offering value in return for trust up front. This slide provides an example of how you can structure your content for use in an editorial calendar and provide an evergreen solution. And what we mean by evergreen is content that is prolific, that is structured, continuous. You're becoming almost like a newspaper model, or what we know or what we deem to be a newspaper or magazine model by adopting this kind of structure. And the benefit is that this particular structure stems from your core research competencies. It's always difficult to stay interesting and relevant online, but with a little planning, your content can stay on point and help build trust. Being there online prior to the research trial itself is key. It sets up a reciprocal approach, one that places you in the position of advisor in addition to the GP as a clinical location or as a PI. In order to achieve this, it is essential to educate your potential patient audience about clinical trials. Explain the benefits of research, discuss the indication, discuss condition examples, discuss research results when available and as soon as they're made available. Discuss the reality of treatment. Become the authority online by creating a more approachable principal investigator profile or clinical research site brand. This is within your local community. Plan your editorial calendar from primary research through to social media posts. This brings us to our next step, diversity and accessibility. Many trials are not diverse enough, despite claiming to be statistically significant. Decentralized trials provide a new opportunity for further research, to do further research in underrepresented communities. Online accessibility standards are beginning to be enforced. Potential patients with disabilities need to be recognized and supported when considering a humanistic approach. For instance, build trust and long-term loyalty through language by translating all trial assets by a brochure, pre-screener, landing page. I know this is a little blue sky thinking. Where are we getting the budget? But these are the new norms, and this is what's being discussed in the industry. Build more trust in distant, diverse communities through decentralized trials and grow your radius beyond a 50-mile limitation that social media platforms typically allow. And get beyond your bricks and mortar research site. Build towards online accessibility, considering web accessibility requirements according to national standards in the US and Canada that are derived from the W3 online accessibility standards. Help the potential hearing impaired and visually impaired patient participate in your trial. Existing digital health communities are a great foundation on which to collaborate and build trust. Digital health communities are online communities that promote disease awareness and prevention while helping patients monitor and manage their chronic condition. No doubt, these are existing channels through which your potential patients are currently finding information and support. Take the time to build a good partnership within these digital communities. They likely have ongoing opportunities for you to inform potential patients about particular research trials You can find yourself at speaking events. You can find yourself running ads within their website. There's typically a lot of opportunities. It just takes reaching out. Go private. Look to build business partnerships. Above are mobile health app categories that will offer the highest global market potential. Simply do a quick search on your phone, device, or computer to see what comes up. These categories are readily available. They match your target patient search parameters. This is how patients search this stuff out because they're looking for answers specific to their condition. Get to know the resulting app and software companies. Try to understand their business model, how they prefer to work. Reach out and guarantee their rights to protect their users and adapt to the way they communicate with their audience. Leverage their ability to connect to your potential patient. So remember, patient recruitment is about people. When developing recruitment or retention campaign materials, consider a human-centered engagement strategy that resonates with your target audience. Thank you for the time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Let's take the opportunity to dig a little deeper.
Thank you, Ivan. That was an excellent presentation.